that call, and why did the police department here get to make the call of, oh no, it's fine, just go rinse it off with water? That is the EPA's job, correct? Could be wrong. Pretty sure I'm not on that one. It's not up to the police to decide what is a chemical hazard and what isn't, right? No, I don't think so. So it says here, concerned, Hicks called his local emergency responders, who admitted that they had a single generic fire response.
So I'm just trying to get through some research videos that I had and remastering them. So this is Jordan Peterson's series part 4 on the Michael Oziak channel, and in the background here we're listening to the end of a video from Squirrel Vibe, and she seems like a nice person. I'm just trying to hear her out a little bit while I'm doing these remasters.
Plan for the 39 industrial facilities in their district. I'm sorry, my nose itches. The toxic ash that smothered the community was just the visible impact. A terrifying invisible threat also emerged: lead and mercury. These dangerous neurotoxins are completely invisible to our senses. They are reportedly used at the facility and likely spread throughout the LaSalle community after the fire. These toxins can't be washed away with hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. Instead, they will move through the environment from air to land to water and potentially to people, plants, and animals for generations to come. Without telltale colors or odors, these cancer-causing chemicals are nearly impossible to detect and avoid. Now keep in mind, East Palestine, Ohio, there were numerous chemicals on that train, and we know they set the vinyl chloride on fire, but do we know if they set the rest of them on fire? Like, how many things did they release onto the soil and then burn all at once? So what happened in LaSalle isn't an isolated event. These kinds of disasters happen far too often in the United States. The Coalition to Prevent Chemical Disasters has tracked 695 incidents since April of 2020. Y'all, not even 3 full years, confirming that the U.S. experiences a chemical disaster incident on average every 3 days. 3 days. Illinois alone has been home to several alarming chemical disasters in recent months, including a chemical release at Butterfield Color in December of 2022 that injured 2 people, a vapor plume near Wells Concrete in Cary causing evacuations in November, an explosion and fire at Interco Trading Warehouse in Madison in August that killed 1 person, and a fire at the Chemtool Lubricant Factory in Rockton in June of 2020.
See, these are all shutting down our infrastructure. These are all building plants and stuff like that. So yes, they are able to put some poisons and toxins into the atmosphere to help out the agenda. But aside from that, just like the railroads all falling apart, this is about our infrastructure. Take the trucks off the road, get the trains off the tracks, get the shipyard shut down, all the agriculture, everything shut down. So not only are we going to shut each other down from nation to nation, from country to country, but we're also shutting each other down from within at the same time, at the exact same time. And it's not all just happening now, as I keep pointing out in these last 10 videos. It's been happening for the last 50 years. And even now that we're at such a high boil, the majority of the population, I could bury myself in this, iPad and only pull up people that I agree with, right? Which is what most people do. I'm not doing that. I'm looking around and I'm saying, holy fuck, they're all zombies. There's 7.8 billion zombie slaves. Holy shit. Just because one of them may understand that something's going on with the chickens, they won't admit that the economy's about to collapse, for example. Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah, my chickens too. I'm having a hard time. The town shut me down and I can't, reestablish new chicks. I have to go to the factory farm to go buy chickens next year because mine aren't going to be laying eggs anymore. They'll get all that. But then as soon as you talk about the economy collapsing, then you start naming off, let's say, 10 or 15 different areas real quick of the economy that's all collapsing. People can't take their money out of their bank, and 401ks are down, and inflation, they say, is at 7.6 or 6.8 when really it's at 23.3 and all this kind of shit, right? We may hit a recession when really we're in a depression. All this kind of shit that's happening. They won't see any of that. They won't understand it. You can point out to them that all over this earth, they're all switching over to electronic currencies, and they've been getting us ready for that for the last 20 years. And they'll say, no, and they're going to collapse everything. It's going to be really bad. I hope, you can prepare your family. And then they think that you're just being a fucking weirdo. They don't understand this is a real conversation, and they walk away just saying, "Mike, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I mean, there's no way they're gonna collapse. Listen, these millionaires and billionaires that are doing all this shit, they love their money, and without us, they wouldn't have their money. You don't know how many times I've heard that story. Without us, they wouldn't be billionaires. Believe me, they're not going to shut down the system. They're not going to ruin our economy. What are they going to do without, It's like, oh my God, man. No one's seeing the big picture. I'm trying to show you the big picture. If you don't go look at what it is I'm showing you and see the true creator and the false creator/creator, and you don't understand the builders, by the time all this all finalizes, then when we come back out, everyone's going to be going down the roads of space aliens. Space aliens are God, and they. This is just one example. This is one idea of it, because they've already programmed us to believe this anyway. So anybody that might be left outside their bunkers, that might make it, is my point. That might make it through. Um, they'll already be convinced of this stuff, and they'll tell you whatever the fuck they want to tell you. They could just say it was meteoroids sent from the space aliens who are really God, and they built this environment for us. It's really a hologram. We're lucky enough to be biospecies living in a hologram. There's very few of us left. We're going to have to count on the synthetic robots that we humans had built, not the synthetic creatures that the false creator/creator had built, because the false creator/creator has built a synthetic species way better than the robots that we are now building as humans. We're constantly stealing the false creator/creator's work all the time. That's what we do. That's how the false creator/creator built his build, is he stole the true creator's work and built a biosystem within it. And then now humans have taken over, and not all humans, just a very small group. Like I'm always saying, it's a small group at the top who knows, and you can be pretty sure on who's who because of the way they act and what they do and that kind of shit. You can see that. That's why I don't count Bill Gates or Davos or any of these people as being them, because we're given their name first of all. So if we're given their names, then they're not the ones at the top. They're just plants and uh, distractions from reality. Also, they're paid for their services to do that. They're allowed to live at the top of the food chain. I'm sure they're related and connected, and I'm sure they know the whole story that I'm telling you all, and probably more. Not probably, they know more. They have the rest of the story, because I'm still missing a lot of the story.
21, resulting in the 5-day evacuation of all residents within a 1-mile radius. Unfortunately, the 695 incidents tracked by the coalition are likely an undercount. That number would undoubtedly grow if more industries were required to track and report such events. For example, earlier this week in East Palestine, Ohio, a train carrying millions of pounds of vinyl chloride, a potent carcinogen that's used to make PVC pipes, upholstery, and more, derailed, forcing thousands of residents within a 2-mile radius to evacuate. Now, the reason I'm telling you about this Karis fire is for a very, very big reason. This part doesn't matter. I wanted to know, okay, cool, Karis fire. What do they make there? Like, you're talking about the chemicals, and you're talking about the stuff raining down on the people, the plants, the animals, the cars, the houses, everywhere. What do they do?
Okay, so she's about to talk about the PVC, the chemicals they use to make PVC. She keeps thinking of PVC pipe. You got to remember, computers are made out of PVC. There's across PVC carbons. They'll use those. You can get fiberglass and carbons are mixed together, and PVCs are also included. Plastics, in other words. Trash barrels. There's a lot of large things that are made out of PVC plastics, and I'll just mention it quickly, but I've made videos on it in the past and they got deleted, but I'll just try to be quick about it because I've been talking a lot in these last few videos. All right, part of the, there's many ways to get the metallus into our lives, and the metallus that they're bringing into our lives are bad metals that are bad for us. If we don't know our true heavy metal and mineral makeups, and we don't know what heavy metals and minerals we should be taking into our bodies, whether absorption or into our bellies and absorbing it that way or whatever, doesn't really matter to me. The point is that as been going along and finding all these different metallas, the PVCs were another way to get them into us. And there was a period of time when we were fighting the metallas, when we did not want them in our house. And I'm trying to be as quick as I can about it, but there's a lot of information. I'm trying to cram it all into this couple sentences here. All right, so the household alone, just the household. Okay, we used to paint with lead paint. The lead paint, backed by high voltage electricity, 110-volt electricity going through the walls at 60 hertz. This all comes into play what I was talking about in the last video about sine waves. We are electrical species. We don't want to admit it, but even all the bio species are more electrical. We should be more electrical than we are bio, but we ignore our electrical selves. Okay, so your house is painted with lead on the inside. On the outside, it's got fiberglass sheeting and asbestos sheeting. That's on the outside of your house. On your roof might even be asbestos sheeting. Okay, so think about this. So on the outside is asbestos. So think of fiberglass, metal particles all inside this asbestos, right? So what they're doing is bouncing the waves from the 110 voltage back into the house. The lead paint on the inside of the walls now makes the entire layer metal on the outside, lead on the inside of the house with 110-volt electricity in between. Now, granted, we did start putting covering the wires with a plastic, but that rubber plastic did not stop the 110 from coming out the side for the waves that they wanted. Yes, you could touch the wire and not get electrocuted because there was a coating on it, but that still didn't. And if you go further back in time and you look at the coatings that were on there, the other coatings in the old days that we used to put on fiber, there were fiber coatings that we put on wires back in the 50s, 60s, probably still by the 70s we started plastic coating them, yeah, something like that, maybe even in the late 60s. But anyways, so you're making a big magnet out of that side of the wall, right? Then you go to the other wall on the other side of the house, and then you got 4 walls in each room and all this, and they're all set up the same exact way. So you're making a big reverse magnet happening in your home. Now, it's important because reverse magnetism seems to be something that kills the metallus. Now, I can't claim that all metallus are bad because I don't know enough about them to know that. To have the evidence of that, I would need help to find the answers to that. I'm assuming not. I'm assuming that everyone's going to have their own heavy metal and mineral makeup. And if you know what it is, you can live, for a very long time. I don't want to exaggerate or get anybody's hopes up, but we could be living at least a couple hundred years old, no problem, healthy all the way through, healthy. But we don't. We choose to go this other realm of all lies and bullshit and lying to each other about everything. Okay, then and then the PVCs again. We're gonna pull the PVCs again with the plumbing. So we used to plumb our house with coppers, brasses, and lead, and the pipes that were going out were the lead pipes. Not just lead, but iron and lead. Okay, so again, iron and lead, we're making magnetics, reverse magnetism in a circular pipe with our sewage waste leaving the house. So that means we're killing the metallus as it's leaving the house, right? Then you had your copper pipes. So the copper pipes that are bringing the water into the home, that used to bring the water in the home, because now we've pretty much all switched over to PVC now. So that's the whole point I'm trying to get to in a very long, drawn-out way. So, so the plastic and PVC pipes that don't kill the metallus because they don't have any except for they do have static. They do have static electrical properties, the PVCs and shit like that. But it's not enough to kill the metallus. But the coppers were, because the coppers were collecting electromagnetic ability from the rest of the house, you see. So as the pipes are coming into the home, all these the other magnetic abilities that you turned your house into now were acting to those copper and brass pipes. So they were also killing the metallus as it was coming into the house. The metallus can come into the water because you got to remember there's just so many of them. They are the building blocks. The nanometallus and the nanolith metallus, even the electrometallus and the biometallus are building blocks for the bio realm. But all the other nanometals also are building blocks for building that bio realm. So they're also included in the builders accessories, not tools, but materials for the builders to build with. They're all available. All these millions upon millions, and they only give you a very small portion of them, meaning your education and your school only tell you maybe about a very small few that they claim. In other words, a periodic table. Um, so there was all these other ways. Also the fact that the house was grounded. We always grounded our homes with the electrical box. The wires went all around the house. You looked at what was on the outside, what was on the inside. Now all that's been changed. Asbestos. Everyone surrounded and insulated their pipes in the basement with asbestos. Asbestos was outlawed back in the 70s and the 80s because they wanted to make billions off of your backs, claiming that the asbestos was going to kill you. Yeah, fuck you guys. It's unbelievable, man, that we all would go along with this every time. Well, it put out a lot of jobs. A lot of people got jobs, high paying jobs of removing asbestos. It was an easy license to go get. You could all go get it. It sucked. You were sweating your balls off. You had to be in a total zoot suit. They made a federal project out of nothing. Wetting it down, taking it away as contaminated waste. All you had to do is leave it the fuck alone. If you would have left it alone, you would have been fine. Even when it finally the pipes bursted someday or whatever, water it down, cut it out of there with the whole pipe, and get rid of it that way. And as long as you don't keep disturbing it, then it wasn't going to hurt anybody. And even when it was disturbed, didn't even mean that it accounted for that. Then lead paint. Okay, I know about the lead paint. Started in Massachusetts too. Massachusetts is a very famous liberal douchebag state to get all these hoaxes all started. And a long time ago, there was two cases, I believe. Was in Massachusetts, of the child who ate the lead paint, and they blamed autism on it and said that he went insane and got sick and all these shit, right? So the judge, of course, approved the case, and then the kid won, the mother won. Nobody at the time, I mean, there was very few people that thought to themselves, well, gee, that's kind of weird. You're going to start all these new laws based on just a couple of kids that, for some reason, were eating their paint around their window. It doesn't make any sense. Why the fuck were they eating paint then? Isn't that the parents' fault? Because no matter what kind of paint it was, I mean, you're eating toxins, you know. So why is it that the paint companies are getting sued, and the landlords are getting sued? Because landlords were the first ones to really get it, because of course they're going to go up on everyone's rent, because now they got to do total renovations of all their apartments in order to get rid of the lead, because they cannot risk a lawsuit, because these a couple people won the lawsuit. So now the word got out that from now on anybody, so then they're, holy shit, every kid in the world's going to want to eat lead paint. If their parents are going to get $1 million, the parents are feeding the fucking kids the lead paint in their sandwiches, for shit's sakes, you know. So you could see how it all went far off the rails when they want to change these things. And everyone thinks that they're helping themselves. Oh, thank goodness we got rid of all that lead paint. And then the lead paint also turned into be this huge thing of making billions upon billions of dollars a year based on lead abatement, right? Because you had your asbestos abatement and your lead abatement, and there was a bunch of other abatements that they were doing. But these particular abatements are the ones that bother me. So then, so now you had your electricity running through your wall still. So you still had your 60 hertz coming into your home, but it was no longer working with the magnetic ability of and I'm sure it had benefits for us as well, the magnetic ability of your house. The magnetic ability of your home was not only killing the metallus, but there had to be other things that were good for us, and they were so that makes you think too. It makes you think to yourself, okay, well, that means some group of people that were living on the earth, the same ones that I'm today calling scum, but their generations before were approving these things that were good for humans, right? Like you can go back to say, before they were putting fluoride in the water, when we were just drinking water off the side of the mountain and we were not processing all of our water. The water was coming down the mountains. We got it out of a well. It was fresh. It was clean. We knew that when the wells dried up and started getting rusty, we had to go down deeper with our wells and all this stuff. Total fuck job. Everything, the rainwater, we no longer could collect it. The water coming down the mountain, we were no longer allowed to collect it. The water that we could get from our wells, you couldn't get it anymore. You couldn't do that. It was going to be either out of your cost range, or it was going to be made illegal to do any of these things. So everybody's got to get their water from the town water, the city water, whatever, which is processed and fucked with. Metellus is added to it. Constantly shitty. Every town I know, every city I know, they all have problems. I rarely see anybody unless they're getting fresh water and they live near a reservoir or something. Maybe. Did he just start a new video? Okay, so it went right to Jordan Peterson part 5. I was on 4 before, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, this is the same one. I wonder why it started over. Or did it? Maybe it didn't. Oh no, this is a different one, I think. So they do it with everything, and it's been happening for an awful long time. I could go on, but I don't want to. I've been blabbing too much during these videos, and I'm not getting to listen to what these other people are trying to tell us. And it is important too, so I'll try to shut up this time.
Do there. So what I did was the irony of what they manufactured shouldn't be lost on anyone, as we are currently being told how little clean drinking water we have left. So let me explain to you exactly what they do where they had the chemical fire. So it says here, this article is from January of this year, okay, January 13th of this year. Cleanup continues in LaSalle after Caris chemical plant explosion. Cleanup after a massive fire at a chemical plant in LaSalle has moved to a long-term phase, the city announced on that Friday. Officials are still unsure what caused the fire and are testing the air and water quality to narrow down the source. This seems to be a common factor. We're not quite sure what started the fire. We're not quite sure what caused the explosion. We're not quite sure what caused the derailment. We're not quite sure. Y'all need to learn how to figure some shit out because y'all are messing with people's lives here. So residents say they heard several loud explosions followed by witnessing massive plumes of black smoke from the Caracas, chemical plant. Police said employees were able to get out, but one firefighter suffered minor injuries. A spokesperson said the fire started in the warehouse but did not share what started it. The chemical plant itself produces potassium that is used to treat drinking and wastewater. The fire released a green-like substance that fell on people's homes, yards, and cars. I mean, the particles are kind of everywhere. Anything that was outside. Some people reported seeing purple. Now, let's see. This person said they sprayed off the driveway and the door handles and everything like that. But as far as cleaning everything else, I just don't feel comfortable coming into contact with it. Police warned the community not to touch it and that it can be washed off with a mixture of equal parts water, peroxide, and vinegar, but residents are concerned of long-term damage. For them to say that they would let their dog in their backyard eat the grass where that stuff fell on, I find that really appalling. Let's see here. What I want to say, where's the rest of it? The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has been on the ground checking the air and water quality to determine if there are any concerning pollutants. As of Friday in January, the EPA said no levels of concern have been noted, which they like to say that a lot. No levels of concern have been noted. Nope.
So the video went through and it bounced right over to Jordan Peterson series part 5 on the Michael Oziak channel.
Everything's fine here. Nothing to see here. Keep it trucking, right? So Caris, the company that had the explosion, will continue to monitor the air during the long-term cleanup. Officials acknowledge the concern residents have about their environment and health, and da-da-da. Now, you heard what I said. They make stuff that has to do with water. And I was like, okay, well, could you give me a little more information? No, they couldn't. So I looked it up even farther. This is what we have. You guys ready for this? If I can get out of this. Why do these things keep popping up? I don't want to do this. Hold on. Please hold. Okay, I had to figure out how to get into this thing because they didn't want to let me read the article. So this is on cen.acs.org, and this says Karis warns of a 3-month outage for permanganate. Gosh, y'all, I can't read words. Permanganate chemicals. Permanganate. Permanganate chemicals, whatever. Warehouse fire hobbles the sole U.S. producer of water treatment chemicals. Nothing in any of the articles that I read up until I said, what the hell is Karis, said exactly what they are. They are the sole U.S. producer of water treatment chemicals. Do you know who else produces them besides the U.S.? China. Do you know where these people are going to have to get their stuff now that the sole U.S. producer can't do it? China. So let me show you. This is a picture of the chemical fire. Y'all see that there? So that's the chemical fire. Now, except and close, whatever. So a fire at the Karis plant in LaSalle, Illinois, has temporarily shut down the only U.S. producer of potassium permanganate, whatever, and sodium permanganate, and is raising concern about availability of the important water treatment chemicals. The January 11th fire destroyed a warehouse and caused extensive damage to the facility, Karis says. The firm declared force majeure on January 18th, saying it will be at least 90 days before it can fulfill orders for permanganate chemicals. Y'all, the company supplies about 80% of the U.S. market for the chemicals. 80% of the U.S. market for the chemicals, which are used in municipal water treatment to oxidize dissolved iron, manganese, and hydrogen sulfide into solids that can be filtered out. The bulk of imported potassium permanganate and sodium permanganate, whatever, comes from India. China is the world's largest producer of the chemicals, but companies there are hobbled by a U.S. anti-dumping tariff on potassium permanganate. As of a January 18th bulletin from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA if you will, warns that Karis customers should try to find alternate suppliers. Water and wastewater systems that receive chemicals that are produced at the Karis facility in LaSalle, meaning 80% of them, may experience supply chain disruptions, and the domestic market for these chemicals will likely experience challenges.
So they're shutting down the beef, they're shutting down the chicken, they're shutting down the eggs, they're shutting down the gas, they're shutting down the cars, they're shutting down the trucks, they're shutting it all fucking down, and they're shutting down the banks all at the same time. Not now, over the last 50 years they've been doing it. So when is everyone going to wake up? Now they're shutting down the water. When? Are they shutting down the water right now while this girl's making this video? No, they've been shutting the water down for 50 fucking years. Because when I was a kid, we used to go up and take a ride to the Quab and fill up these 5-10 gallon jugs, depending on who you were doing this with. Everybody did it. We're not the only ones. And we got the fresh runoff water coming right off the side of the mountain, right off the rocks. And then they made laws against it because they claimed that somebody got salmonella and that they got sick. They never looked and say, oh, maybe they got sick from the McDonald's that they ate. Maybe they got sick from something else. No, they blamed it on the water. The water, some squirrel pissed in the fucking stream way up high, and therefore no more fresh water for anybody. You got to go get your shit-ass processed water. And they actually blocked up the water systems. They blocked them up. They were totally gone. They put them underground. They put rocks on top of them so you couldn't get it, and the water ran underground. They put signs up everywhere saying nobody's allowed to take the fresh water coming off the side of the mountain anymore. Now, this doesn't mean that it was the only place we got our water, because faucet water was being drank back then, but the faucet water even back then was better than what it is, way better than what it is today. And we all know why this is. We know the fluoride came in the 60s, right? So there's no reason to add fluoride, and that's just one conspiracy crap thing that's put into the water that everyone bitches about. No one talks about the Metellus. Not even the conspiracy guys. They won't talk about the Metellus, any of them. And there are thousands of them in the drinking water. So it's all coming down. And again, it's not something that's just coming down now, that's just happening all now, even though that's the way everybody's acting. If the information that this girl, if she is so good at, she could go back right now over the last 50 years and find all the information related to this one subject, but that's not her job. She's only one person, but she's doing this part of it. So if she mentions something like this, right, that's why I'm talking about this. Is there anybody else out there that's putting together all of them at once and saying, okay, the financial, the markets, the everything's being shut down. We okay, um, grocery grocery stores, right? Just the grocery stores alone. We're down to everybody knows this. Everyone knows this. We're down to just five main suppliers in the United States that are in control of all of our food. Okay, there's five main conglomerates. That's everything: beef, chicken, agriculture, you know, plants and animals alike, fish, everything. But they're in control of it all. So you had your big Walmart, your big Kmart's that get supplied from them. Now, a majority of those supplies we all know come from China, because China, we sent China all of our factories throughout the late 50s, 60s, 70s, and we were all done by the 80s. They had majority of our factory business, and well, a little bit to Mexico and a little bit to other places too and stuff, but and to India and stuff like that. But most of it went to China for the factories. So if someone was to follow that trail around and get jiggy with it, then it would be easier for everyone else to see and understand, because really it's been going on for that long. Everyone's going to act like this is just happening. So when it all goes down, and let's say Walmart, Big Y, Big Kmart, all closed down. They don't have anything, no supplies left, because they get 99% of their supplies are from China. So not Big Y, but Big Y would be a little bit different. But they are also a chain, and they're also connected with the other ones. So they'll with one of the other five, and so that, in other words, they'll also be shut down. It's just a different company that they're tied into. But Big Y, Walmart, Big Kmart, because Big Y, I mean Big Kmart and or Super Kmart, whatever they call them, and Walmart's and Lowe's and those things too, but they don't do groceries. And Home Depot is going to go with another set of them. All these are going to all be done. They're all going to close down. And then once they do, and they already have over the last 30 to 50 years, as long as they've been opening them, they've been closing them. And they're just getting everybody into their areas is what they're doing with those stores, and getting more control over everyone. So now area that I'm in, we only have three grocery stores in a half-hour radius. If they start their, let's say we go into martial law for some strange, crazy reason, I could not imagine why we would do that, but let's say we did, like in the next week or two, probably the way things are going, and we do that, then all these other laws automatically go into place. They automatically, so these 15-minute cities, boom, they're done. We're under martial law. 15-minute cities are all set. We've got cameras everywhere. There's drones everywhere. It's all done. So you only can go to these several. So now that puts me back into only two grocery stores I can go for. So if both of those are shut down because they don't have any supplies, right? Because of all the, because we just did something bad to China, they did something bad to us, so therefore we're not doing business with them anymore. Boom, done. They don't care. China's not going to care, because they're going to, for the time being, they're going to do business with everybody else, and we're all going to be working on a wartime economy anyway. I mean, it's going to be a real fucking mess. It's going to be a real mess, and there's no way of getting out of it now at this point. The only thing I want to do is, when we come back up from it, are we going to be just as intelligent as we are now? Are we going to be just as fucking smart as we are now, that we're going to ignore all reality and go along with all this bullshit stories? That's what worries me. I don't see any way out of going down the road, because if everyone's been ignoring it all for the last 50 years or more, then why would I think that because we're at a high boil, they're all of a sudden going to wake up? Because no one seems to be waking up, and we are at a very high boil. It kind of, you can feel it every day, every fucking day. You can feel it more and more. So when this all goes down, that doesn't even bother me anymore because it seems like it's inevitable. But as far as when it's over with, is anybody going to be left that's going to show you what I'm trying to show you? I don't think so. I don't think so. There's probably only a couple thousand of us on the earth that are seeing what it is I'm trying to show you. And out of us, a large portion of them are afraid to speak out about it because of whatever reasons. Um, Others may see it, don't know how to explain it. Maybe that's it. Others that see it are, again, some are afraid of what they're seeing, and others are afraid to talk about what it is they're seeing. So there's a lot of fear wrapped up in what it is I'm showing you all. But oh man, it would be nice. So if a few million people woke up to it, then I'd have a lot better of a feeling as we go into this takedown. I'd have a better feeling. Say, well, at least when we come out of it, there'll be some people saying, "Ah, no, 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 no. You're not getting me to believe any of your fucking lies anymore. We're done with that. We're gonna start over, and But no, It's gonna just keep going, getting bad."
Until the lost production capacity is restored. Indeed, news of the fire sparked a round of anxious calls from municipal authorities and others seeking to secure supply for the months ahead. I'm getting an insane amount of calls for an insane amount of volume, says one distributor who supplies imported permanganate, whatever, speaking on the condition of anonymity. I can't do this one either. Anonymity, because of his company's policy. I'm getting unsolicited orders for 6 to 8 months. He and others anticipate an outage considerably longer than 90 days. Chemical distributors say the timing of the incidents could have been worse. Sure. Demand for permangate, whatever, the P thing, is typically much higher in the summer than in the winter, says Mike Ricks, president of Water Solutions Unlimited, an Indiana-based distributor that imports the P stuff from India. The bad news is that for people like us, inventory is low. There's not a lot of excess in the market. So, distributors agree that the P stuff prices will jump by 25 to 50% beginning in a matter of weeks and lasting until Keris is back in full operation. Rick says it will be several weeks before sufficient supply from India will be available and that it will be difficult to meet the demand from Keris customers. So here's the thing. Water bills start going up. Your municipal water, does your bill now go up because they now have to pay more to get the same thing that they were using before to try to keep the water clean?
It's going to go up, way up. And not only is it going to go up, but the water is going to be shittier too, because it just keeps getting shittier every year for the last 50 years.
Or do they just say, we're just going to let the shit flow and see what happens? So that's a lot, right? 80% of
the fluoride alone is put in the water, and it's in bottled water. It's in all water, fluoride, and it's to make you, the word I like to use is ingenious now. It's to make you all intelligent and docile. That's what it is.
The country is supplied by this company and their product, and now there just happens to be a massive explosion, and they can no longer produce this thing that's supposed to keep your water clean. That's a huge deal, and I hope you guys understand how big a deal that is. So that's that one. Now, here's the thing. There has not been a single update on mainstream media, MSN, since January 31st. I tried to find every single thing. The last update I could find was from the company itself, Keris Chemicals itself, on February 17th, because I went to their page, Keris LLC, Fire News Updates.
I'll just mention before this video ends is, I was talking earlier about the plumbing and everything like that, killing the metallus, and then we changed it over to PVC. And then it's the same thing I was saying the other day on another video about the lighting. The metallus that they want to thrive, these fungus metallus, they love LED light. They get off on it. And there are a lot of species, a lot of biospecies that do very bad with all the Metellus that they want to thrive. I mentioned before there's us. I don't know if you want, yeah, I mentioned the ladybug and the bumblebee, but there are many others as well. And then there are other heavy metals and minerals that are being changed up that are causing major die-offs of the oceans, ocean creatures like all the whales dying everywhere, and other fish that are not even being talked about and mentioned. There's a lot of bad releases that are going on everywhere, and then of course they bring in now the bird flu, and then the bird flu is now transferable. They're admitting because it killed that little girl, and her father, I think, might have passed too. So they've already got, and then they've got a handful of others that are very sick and may not make it. So they've got evidence now that the bird flu is transferring to humans, and once they have that, then they can start that next situation where they're going to make everybody kill their chickens because they don't want to pass the virus around. It'll be another one of these global pandemics based on the birds, and you'll be forced to get your chicken and eggs from them. You're going to pay like we're paying now, $10 to $15 a dozen is what it's going to end up being at least to start out with, and they're not going to be organic eggs. They're going to be shit fucking eggs from the factory. And the same thing with the chicken itself. Is if you buy a chicken, it's going to be way more expensive. Is buying a chicken is going to be like buying a fucking lobster, price wise, and all that. So everything's happening. Not now. Everything's been happening for the last 50 years.
And the very last one they have, again, news update, is here we go. Where is it? Those are phone numbers. So, Peru, Illinois, February 17th at 3 p.m. Caris LLC resumed production of Kerolite catalyst out of its LaSalle, Illinois plant the week of February 13th, nearly 1 month after a fire located in another area of the property. Kerolite catalysts are used for breathable air purification, emission air purification, and process air purification. Specific applications include the destruction of carbon monoxide, ozone, and ethylene oxide, as well as the removal of certain compounds and odors. And that was the last update from what happened with the fire. And that doesn't have anything to do with the water, but it does have to do with air and ethylene oxide and carbon monoxide odors and stuff, removal of them, which is a big deal. I mean, that's important that they're able to get back into production with that and remove that kind of stuff. But the fact that the water one is out, that is a huge deal to me. So let me get back to what I was doing. There are no vinyl chloride manufacturers in Illinois. So where did the vinyl chloride come from on the East Palestine train that was loaded in Madison, Illinois, and moved, was on its way to Conway, Pennsylvania? There's no vinyl chloride manufacturers there. Now, the other question was, how did they get it from, if they're moving things by semi-truck, how are they getting them into the trains? Because I was curious about that too. And the Madison, Illinois Freight Line hub, you can't look up anything according to Norfolk Southern. Anytime I try to put in anything with Norfolk Southern, not found. NSCORP.com, Norfolk Southern Corporation.com. You can't get into it. So I tried to figure out where their short lines were, where they load things, all that kind of stuff. I can't get any of that information. Every single time I try to get to one of their sites, their links, it goes absolutely nowhere. Now, I was looking for where a tanker truck, because here's how I got to where I was. If there's nowhere in Madison, Illinois that produces vinyl chloride, that means it had to have been put in a semi-truck of some sort and driven to Madison, Illinois, and then transferred from that truck into one of the rail cars for Norfolk Southern to then move from Madison, Illinois to Conway, Pennsylvania. And I was trying to figure out, how do they move it from the semi-truck to the rail car? Like there has to be an entire system set up for it. And there's a way you have to do it. And again, I can't get into their website. So let's see, here's this one. So I went to this thing trying to figure out how they move from a semi to a tanker. And that's what this is here. Y'all see that? So what they do is your truck pulls up on one side, you have the rail car on the other side, and they can move it from point A to point B. There are none of these anywhere on the rail line in Madison, Illinois that I could find. I tried to Google Earth it, I tried to pull up absolutely everything possible, and I could not find where they would have moved vinyl chloride from a truck into a tank. Then it became apparent to me why in East Palestine they didn't try to just pull from the tanker, the derailed tanker, and put it back into a truck, because you have to have this whole system. Well, those systems are movable. You can get one and have it set up within 24 hours. So why didn't they do that was my question. Why didn't they get one of these things from, like, what is this called? SafeRack.com or wherever,
True.
and have one brought to the site in East Palestine,
Yep.
so they then could have
That's what I
easily
said.
moved the chemicals, the vinyl chloride, from inside these tankers
Mm-hmm.
into a semi truck and moved it out of the way,
That's
instead
exactly
of
what I
releasing
said
it onto
yesterday.
the soil and setting it on
And I
fire.
didn't even hear this
so
video.
Norfolk Southern,
Not
I
yet.
tried to find everything I could, and there is no Norfolk Southern in Madison, Illinois.
She was talking about something else, and I said that same thing. And then I also mentioned that she had another good idea that I didn't think of, which is, if they wanted to do a controlled burn, why didn't they really do a controlled burn? In other words, light it on fire and then aim your hoses way up high in order to keep all the carbons down, because that's a fast burn, that these chemicals. You know, it's not exactly jet fuel, but that's why they were worried about explosion. So if you didn't want an explosion, you want to do a controlled burn, it would have made sense. I mean, in the amount of time that it took to set everything up to do it, they could have had hoses set up to immediately bring the carbons right back down to the ground, instead of letting them go up into the air like they did. So that was true too.
There's Granite City,
She
Illinois.
makes a lot of good points, this
But
girl.
that's all that comes up. And again, there's no way to transfer from a semi truck to a rail tank and then get it moving. So I'm not quite sure how they got the vinyl chloride on the train to begin with. And that's just something that's been bothering me. If you guys have an idea or you've
bothering
seen
me
anything
too.
on it, I would love to hear it. Please share with everybody. That's it.
It's true. And then you could have even backed another train down the track to the end, and then ran some hoses and did it that way as well. You know,